This week we are diving into that incredibly precious and yet sometimes elusive thing called newborn sleep.
If you have a new baby, you know that sleep can be so hard to come by.
Yes, so with that we're going to cover the critical things you need to know to maximize the amount of sleep you and your little babe are getting.
Yes, and if this is your first time meeting us, I'm Sarah. I'm a board-certified OBGYN and mom of 3.
Yep, I'm Kurt. I'm a board-certified pediatrician and dad of 3. And we are the Doctors Bjorkman. As we mentioned, this episode is all about newborn sleep and the things that have helped us maximize sleep for our baby and in turn us too. This episode is going to be packed with the things we've done ourselves, and so be sure to stick around through to the end of this video to catch all these great tips and also to hear what resources have been most helpful to us.
We're also going to share at the end how we start thinking kind of early about what it's going to take to eventually help our babies learn to fall asleep on their own and then stay asleep through the night. Sleep is a necessary function of life and makes up a large portion of the day for newborn babies, usually somewhere between 14 and 17 hours a day for your 1 to 2 month old. But just because your baby is sleeping a lot, there is still going to be a lot of missed sleep for parents in that first year. On average, parents miss out on about 3 hours of sleep a night for that first year with the baby.
Yeah. Now, as science continues to learn more about sleep, we are learning more about its role in development and how sleep disturbances, particularly early in life, can affect aspects of health such as neurological development as well as emotional well-being and overall growth.
Yep.
Now, sleep is a little bit different for newborn babies. We should say that again.
Yep.
And also just based on individual temperaments, health needs, and the schedule of their family.
It certainly is now a little bit less structured for us with 3 kids as opposed to our first.
Yes, so it's okay to realize that if your family's a little bit more chaotic, then maybe you need a little bit more grace from that. But it remains true that healthy sleep in newborns depends largely on a consistent routine.
Yep.
And then managing kind of day to night routines are key in optimizing infants' developmental and physiologic sleep requirements.
Yep. It helps to think about it in this way, kind of. So sleep is natural, but organized sleep takes some more learning. And this process of learning night from day and then how to organize sleeps into blocks of time doesn't happen overnight.
Yep, and this process of learning is going to vary from baby to baby and usually takes about 3 to 6 months for babies to truly establish solid sleep habits.
Yes.
Having said that, there is some evidence that you can use to help improve this process for your baby and hopefully help it happen as soon as possible. Before we get into our chat about helping babies sleep, please remember that early on babies need to eat frequently. So especially in those first 2 weeks of life, it's all about survival for baby and caregivers. Your baby's gonna need to eat way more often than every 3 hours, like they will be by the time they're a little bit older. But again, once your baby has established solid feedings, they're showing good weight gain, and you get your okay from the pediatrician, these tips we're gonna share are hopefully gonna help you and your baby start to get longer stretches of sleep both at night and better naps during the day.
And it's also really important to remember that we are talking specifically about newborn sleep. And newborn sleep is very different than adult sleep and later on baby sleep. You hear about that 4-month sleep regression. That is because baby's sleep physiology is starting to change at that time to be adult sleep cycle type patterns as opposed to this newborn sleep that we're working on right now.
Yeah, and some good habits now, though, is going to help you when they get to that 4-month age when you're starting to think about sleep learning, sleeping through the night.
Tremendously, yep. All right, so we are going to break this down into 3 big categories of tips to help your newborn learn to sleep.
Yep, and they're going to be learning the difference between day and night, setting up your environment for sleep, and then getting a solid routine that you kind of follow that's really going to help set the groundwork for healthy sleep habits later on.
Okay, so that first tip is to help your baby learn day and night.
Right. With our first, she was just awake. She loved to be awake between 2 and 7 a.m. every night for the first 2 weeks of life, and it made everything so exhausting.
Yes.
It was just so challenging. But again, remember, your baby spent the last 9 months in the dark.
Yes. So there's kind of 3 little mini tips here that can help speed up this baby learning the difference between daytime and night. And some of the things we learned the hard way, but they are: one, like use light. Make sure your baby's exposed to natural light during the daytime and wake periods, and then limit light at night. The body actually responds to light and when it's making certain hormones that help us regulate sleep. And so by keeping things dim at night and bright during the day and maybe getting outside, it can really help your baby learn to differentiate night from day.
Yep. And then the opposite of keeping things bright in the day is at nighttime, keep them brief and boring. For us, we also really work to keep things dim, limiting ambient light during those nighttime feeds, remembering that even things like the TV or other lights at night can really wake your baby up more than you want to for those nighttime feeds.
Yes, so number 3, and maybe the biggest key here in baby learning when nighttime is having a consistent start to the day. There's this concept of an anchor feed, or that consistent start time to each day. Hey, we are going to wake baby up at the same time every day for their first eat, get some light, get a little wake window before we put them down for their first nap, and starting consistently, whether that's 6:30, 7, 8, whatever that is for you, consistently every day.
The second big piece of helping your newborn sleep is building an environment that's good for sleep.
Helpful. Yeah. So much of a baby's ability to consolidate those blocks of sleep together starts with having an environment that's good for sleep.
Yeah, and we have to start here with safety. The American Academy of Pediatrics strongly recommends that your baby sleep on their own flat surface that's free of anything that can get in front of their face. Think of extra blankets, toys, bumpers, etc.
Yeah.
And then also having your baby sleep on their back.
Yes.
This is part of safe sleep, and the move to encourage back to sleep has been associated with a significant decrease in rates of sudden infant death syndrome.
So with the safe piece in place, then you can think about how can you make the environment more encouraging of actual sleep. And so we've already talked about the importance of controlling the light. So bright light during the day and working to keep ambient light, keep things dark during nighttime is really important.
And then remember the other senses too. Think about sound,
Sure.
temperature, and touch.
Yep. Some steady ambient noise has been shown to help lead to less interrupted sleep. So white noise can be very helpful for this, and it's been a mainstay in our nurseries for our kiddos. They all have a white noise machine. But there have been some concerns raised about how that constant white noise might affect hearing or other development. So be sure that that white noise isn't too loud, and think about placing the noise machine on the other side of the room. And it actually works best if you kind of have that white noise between baby's crib and where that sound is coming from. So think of it as kind of like a wall of sound there.
To break up the noise that's coming from the older toddlers or
Yes.
whatever else is going on outside that nursery.
Yes.
We've also been thinking a little bit more about using brown noise for baby number 3.
Yes.
There's not strong data to suggest that there's a big difference between using brown noise versus white noise, but just one of these little changes we've made as we now have gone through babies 1, 2, and 3.
Sure. As far as that great sleep environment goes, temperature is really important too. So keep baby's room at a comfortable temperature and then dressed appropriately. A good rule of thumb is that they're wearing the same number of layers as you are, plus 1 layer. So that can be a swaddle or a sleep sack, or if they're swaddled in a little thin blanket.
Yep. And then remember, what baby is wrapped in can matter a lot too.
Yes.
One of our secret weapons for sleep has been the use of swaddles during these first couple of months.
Yep.
Right? Now you're going to need to stop this practice once they're able to roll, which usually comes between 8 and 12 weeks of age.
Yes.
But during the newborn phase, keeping baby snugly wrapped up helps prevent them from startling themselves awake during sleep, and has really helped our children have longer stretches of sleep, both with naps and especially at night. And it turns out this has been studied, and there's data that supports this as well.
Right. It's just part of that consistent environment for them. It's kind of putting all of those things together. They're in their environment. They feel cozy in that swaddle, and they're like, it's time to sleep. The third piece of the puzzle here is schedule and routine.
Yep. And this final, maybe most important part of babies learning to sleep is this schedule and routine.
Yes.
It really helps them bring it all together through consistent cues and repetition. And we're going to break this down into a couple things as we go through the day, thinking about wake windows, nap times, recognizing sleep cues, and then finally having a consistent bedtime routine.
Yes. So earlier I kind of mentioned the importance of the first anchor feed of the day. And I found that's a great way to kind of build the rest of the day off of. So you starting with that feed and that first wake window. So what is a wake window? These are something that we really didn't know about with our first, and once we kind of learned about it, it really, and started to pay attention, it helped us guide us a little bit in terms of how long babies kind of can handle being awake between sleep.
Yep, so their wake windows are that time between when they first wake up and when they're expected to be ready for sleep again.
Yeah.
And trying to get them to sleep too soon is hard to get them down.
Yep.
And if you wait too long, can also leave you with a very fussy, overtired baby who's equally hard to get down for a nap.
Yes. On average, from birth to 12 weeks, wake windows are about 45 to 90 minutes. And this can vary based on your baby, and also those kind of change throughout the day. Usually the first wake window is the shortest.
And then the last one's a little bit longer.
Yep, try to keep them up a little longer before bed. The pattern kind of goes eat, play, sleep. And I know the wake window concept helps me a little bit in when I'm trying to decide, okay, baby's fussy, baby's crying. Is he hungry? Is he tired? What's going on? And I think about how long has he been awake? Oh, it's been 45 minutes or an hour. He's ready for a nap. He's not hungry. He's tired.
Yeah, and so remembering they're awake, they eat, they play, they sleep.
When it comes to daytime naps, it's helpful to remember that nap times vary and that naps are not always the same length.
Yeah, so now naps can be anywhere from 20 minutes to 120 minutes for newborns, and that is 100% developmentally normal.
Yes.
And so if baby falls asleep and wakes up 20 minutes later,
Yes.
that's okay. But if they sleep for a full 2 hours, that's great too.
Yeah.
And hopefully it gives you a little bit of chance for a nap yourself. But during the day, however, remember to wake that sleeping baby if they've been sleeping for 2 hours. Otherwise, those long daytime naps are going to start to eat away at nighttime sleep.
Right, you don't want that. So you may have heard someone say, never wake a sleeping baby. That doesn't apply for brand new babies because they don't have the energy stores in those first few weeks of life to help keep their blood sugar from dropping too low. And so they need to be eating every 2 to 3 hours. As babies get a little older, they're able to go longer between feeds. So for us, we took the approach of always wake a sleeping baby during the day. Make sure baby's eating every 2 to 3 hours during the day to fill up that little gas tank, but never wake the sleeping baby overnight, meaning we would let them sleep for 4 to 5 hours or however long they wanted to sleep, and we'd start kind of applying that once they were back to their birth weight.
Yep. And then in addition to like this just being good for baby, having this schedule of eating every 2 to 3 hours is really going to help you understand their pattern of wake windows and to be a little bit more recognizable, to help you know baby's schedule and pay attention for sleepy cues so that you can know, hey, it's actually time to start getting ready for that next nap.
Yes.
So as we're thinking about getting ready for nap time, think about learning to look for sleep cues that baby's getting tired.
Yes, key signs your baby might be tired include yawning, staring off into space, getting red around the eyes, these red eyebrows, fussiness, jerky movements, rubbing their eyes, clenching their fists, or you may even notice they make a certain little sleepy noise every time they're getting ready for their nap.
Yeah, and when you start to see those sleepy cues, it's time to start getting ready to put baby down because
Yes.
babies can quickly go from that happy sleepy to overtired, angry, hard to get to sleep.
Yes, Hank's big thing is he starts to just stare.
Yeah.
He's not making eye contact anymore, he's just staring.
And it says, hey, let's get his
Nap.
swaddle and
Yes.
set him down.
Yes.
Within your routine, we have to mention that a huge part of having good sleep is being well fed.
Totally.
And just like sleeping, learning to eat takes time. So as you and your baby are learning, try to get the most out of every feed.
Yes. So this often means getting baby undressed, getting some lights on, really getting those sleepy babies, encouraging them to keep eating. I remember the IVCLC we worked with Cease was like, it should look like National Geographic at your house. Everybody should be naked during feeding time. Like, you may not have to get that intense at night, but skin to skin, baby being like a little bit chilly, helps them wake up a little bit.
Especially for the daytime feeds, using light, making sure that your daytime feeds are in that well-lit space so baby's like, hey, it must be time to be awake and do something.
Yes. And also, just remember that sleep often gets better when feeding improves.
Yep.
Like there was a day last week where Hank was kind of extra fussy during the day. He didn't really eat so well all day long. And then he had to catch up at night because he wanted to fill his little gas tank of food and he had not done that during the day. So you're going to have some of those nights. But with that, the more you can help baby get their required nutrition in during the daytime hours, the less they're going to need to eat overnight.
The final piece of your routine and schedule is the end of the day. Having a standard bedtime routine can be so helpful to just signal to your baby that it's time for that longer nighttime sleep.
Yes, and we were way better at this, like having a nighttime routine for those earlier kids than we have been with baby number 3. And we have actually said we think if we could work on like a nighttime routine for baby number 3, that might actually really help him go to sleep easier.
But it's so important, right? Remember, no screen time in that 1 to 2 hours before bed.
And a longer wake window, usually 1.5-ish hours before bed.
Yep. And then, like, what is that routine that works for you? Is it bath time, then that last feed, a book, a favorite song, a little snuggle, and then setting them down for sleep?
Yes.
Doing the same thing in the same order every night can really help your baby learn, like, oh, it's the end of the day. Let's get ready for our long, deep sleep.
Yep. So far, we've talked through the process of learning day and night, having an environment that's great for sleep, and then keeping somewhat of a schedule and routine. We also want to mention some little things that will help you set your baby up for success when you're getting ready to work on sleep learning or maybe sleep training to sleep through the night in a few months.
Yeah, the biggest thing here is making the most of those times when baby is most sleepy, letting them fall asleep on their own. So for us and our kiddos, we find the first 1 or 2 naps of the day are kind of like guaranteed
or
easy
more
sleep.
reliable at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we use them often as times to put them down dozy but not fully asleep, letting them learn to self-soothe themselves to sleep.
Drowsy but awake.
Yes. It only works for the first nap or 2 for us. But these are also the naps where we're starting to leave arms out as they're getting closer to the rolling stage, just so babies are learning to sense some of their own body movements during sleep.
Yeah, they need to practice. It takes practice, and giving them those opportunities where they can be successful, to be in their own sleep space, to feel their little bodies and potentially put themselves to sleep, and you can do some little things to help them, give them a passy, again, that attempting drowsy but awake, just things to practice. It won't work every time, but it helps set you up for success in the future.
Some final things that we need to mention in this episode are remembering to use your support.
Yes, so caring for a baby is really hard work. So use your support whenever you can. Put baby's bassinet on your partner's side of the bed. Let grandma hold the baby for a nap so you can take one too. Take turns with your partner getting the baby down for these naps so that you each have some free time to be yourselves.
Yeah. And remember, sleep is going to get better.
It does.
Doing some of these above things will hopefully help it get better sooner. But as we said, as feeding improves, so does sleep, usually.
Yes.
Just keep practicing good habits and they will pay off. Baby's going to need to learn to fall asleep. They're going to need to learn to put themselves back to sleep, to stay asleep on their own when waking in the night, and then to be content in their bed when they wake up in the morning. These all take time and practice, and there are so many tips that we didn't get to cover today.
Yes, I think Cease was never content in her crib when she woke up, ever.
Yeah.
So you may never get there.
But
if you are looking for other resources, a couple things that we found super helpful were the Taking Care of Babies online class and her Instagram and her blog's great. Happiest Baby on the Block book. It was written by Dr. Harvey Karp. He's the inventor of the SNOO. And then there was this little book. It was called 12 Hours by 12 Weeks. It was written by a Brazilian mom who has 5 kids and gave some tangible tips.
It was a quick read that was super helpful, like for me to think about how do we build our schedule during the day. But this is all we have this week. Hopefully this gets you some extra rest. If you aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Share this with some of your friends, and make sure you catch our videos coming out with more newborn content in the weeks ahead.
See y'all next week.
Bye.
We're doctors.
But not your doctors.
Anything we've said in this video is for education or entertainment purposes only.
It is not medical advice.
Any specific medical questions you have should be directed to your provider.